5:31. I'd like to call the work session of the Forest Grove City Council. The discussion topic is Charter Review Commission recommendations and review part 2. And I'm going to, for attendance purposes, we have Council President Rippey, Councilor Martinez, Councilor Marshall, and Councilor Ewing. Councilor Guston is absent and excused, and I think Councilor Valenzuela is going to join. Okay, I'm going to turn over to our city attorney, Ashley Driscoll.
Good evening, City Council. Ashley Driscoll, City Attorney's Office. Today is a follow-up presentation from our meeting at the last work session regarding the results of the Charter Committee. So once the PowerPoint gets going, I'll start going through it. All right, next slide. So tonight, at our last work session, we're able to get through all the substantive Charter Review Committee recommendations. We had a brief amount of time for discussion at the end of that presentation. And tonight is a follow-up on that to allow the City Council to discuss the recommendations and decide how they want to move forward. At the end of the conversation tonight, we will talk a little bit more about timeline. If the City Council desires to refer any amendments to the election either this fall or May of 2025. So again, recap at our work session on April 22nd. We went through the initial charter review recommendations. Next slide. And I think for this part, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mayor, to lead the council through discussion of each one of the recommendations. So let's start with the first one. So if you recall, the Charter Review Committee did not recommend geographical recommendations or amendments designed to impose geographical representation within the charter.
Okay, so is there any discussion on this issue or proposed changes from council? This would be districts or no? Okay. So we can move forward.
The second recommendation was to not move forward with term limits. So we have no proposed amendments to the charter's current language on term limits.
Discussion points. I'll start because I think Council President's chewing out. I don't know if he wants to. But this one is difficult for me because our livability survey and what I hear from the community is that they would like to see term limits. And then when the other part that what I believe as an elected is, you know, when you have values, when you say these are our city values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, sometimes you have to make policy decisions to go in that route, right? So what I heard from the Charter Review Committee was that we don't have enough people participating right now. And so they're hesitant to make term limits when we already don't. So I don't know. Those were just my initial comments. Councilor Ewing.
I think that I look at this a little bit differently, being at this point the longest serving on the council. And I look at it this way, and I have to refer back to previous mayors who felt that democracy was up to the people. And that in turn meant that if they want to replace somebody because they're not following the values or they're not following diversity or whatever their reasoning being, they cannot vote for that person. I think once we take away that right to choose who you can vote for without policy interfering with it, that is a more clean form of democracy. So I am not for term limits. I don't think that is going to really move us forward as far as the community strength in those leaders that they re-elect. Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Well, I guess I'm sort of divided on this one. I think for me, fundamentally, I believe in term limits. I don't think that term limits really prohibit the concept of democracy, at least in terms of the practice of democracy. I do, but my question around term limits was more around the length of what those term limits should be. And my experience on council and my observations of many people, there is a certain amount of learning curve for newly elected people, as well as then both the institutional knowledge and the procedural knowledge that is gained by years of experience became very, very useful and necessary for the effective running of a particular of the council, for that matter. It's also extremely important for people to be knowledgeable about the different issues over a long period of time, and then being able to speak their minds, speak their convictions in a way that can then influence. So if we have relatively inexperienced elected officials, they're not going to have necessarily the knowledge or the experience to be able to influence, particularly outside of the city. And I think that that's extremely important when we deal with county and metro, the state, and beyond. So in the absence of trying to come up with a term limit that would accommodate all of my thoughts, I think I'm more inclined to say no term limits. My only other fear on that, and again, you don't want to set policy based upon a particular fear, but if you get people that you have to really trust the people, so that if there is an elected official that is out of line, that they are going to be voted out of office. And so at this point in time, I'm still willing to trust the people to make that judgment and remove somebody who has become detrimental to the good order of the city's governance. So I would support no term limits.
Okay, so let's just do a read of the, or wait, is there any more discussion? Let's do a read of the room. Is there consensus for keeping this recommendation of no term limits? A thumbs up, shaking of head. And okay, so we'll move on.
The next item up for the discussion is role of the mayor and council president. The role of the mayor, the Charter Review Commission has no proposed amendments. However, with the role of the council president, the Charter Review Commission is recommending that the charter be amended to insert the line that the president shall not serve for more than 2 consecutive years. So although the council president is voted on by the council every year, if you have served in that role for 2 consecutive years, you're ineligible to be the council president in the 3rd year.
Okay, open for discussion. Council President Rippey.
So I agree with the part with regard to the council president. I think I have always believed that it should be one of those positions that rotates among the different members of the council to give, again, as we have a responsibility to educate and give other members of council the opportunity for experience to demonstrate leadership. And so I think this does that to an extent, but really it's really up to the mayor in how often the mayor utilizes the position, whether or not there is that it's kind of effective in being able to fill in and learn things. On the part of the mayor, the no proposed amendments, I disagree with that. And here's my reasoning. I think the League of Oregon Cities template charter is incorrect. They say that the political head, the mayor is the political head. And if you look in our charter, I forget what section it clearly states that it's the council that is the political head. It is a council form of government. The council is the head of the government and not the mayor. And since that term is ambiguous to begin with and has caused some consternation with people, I would like to try and come up with terminology that is more reflective of a statement of fact of the mayor's role. So my suggestion would be, instead of using the term political head, to say the mayor is the primary representative of the council for the city of Forest Grove. And that acknowledges the mayor is the primary representative. But it also acknowledges the fact that it is the council that is still where, I forget what section it is, but it clearly states that the council has all of the authority and the power vested in the council. And no one person on the council has any power or authority or responsibility unless given that by the whole council. And in that regard, the mayor, being the primary representative, then represents the wish of the council. I think that would be clear. So that would be my suggestion.
Other discussion? Councillor Ewing.
So this is not a new philosophical discussion. I've been through 3 mayors, and it is always a philosophical discussion. So first of all, I will tell you that I don't like titles. I just don't care for titles, because I believe that titles initially puts a barrier between people, because it puts a power above other people once you use a title. That's how I've always felt about this position. And I'm speaking very candidly, and I'm speaking in my experience with the council. And that is that we seldom are represented as a whole. Generally, decisions are made without full council discussion or input. Things and places people go are not fully discussed, or whether or not we as a council have a philosophical view of how we want to lead our community. So this has always been a real push for me, because I believe that our charter is correct when it talks about the body, the whole body, being the lead. And I cannot see any other way than to put it into black and white terms that this is the new future. It's no longer your title means that you can go out and represent the city without talking to the whole body. It no longer will mean that you can go out and make statements or endorsements on people when it hasn't been discussed by the whole council, because there is a figurehead, mayor, political leader, people who are not experienced with government, and even those that are, believe that that person is the first among equals, and that is not. This is one among equals. So those decisions about, we're going to talk about in our budget meeting about nonprofit participation, when we talk about proclamations, those are things that we never have discussed as a whole body. But somehow there is a outward breach on what that political agenda is going to be. And I just really, really hope that we will endorse, support, and help as best we can to get it to a whole body, not just a title. As far as the president's position, I agree there needs to be limits, because I've seen in the past people who have had it for over a decade. That to me, and I've always said this, cross-training, that's the way that you survive going forward in the future is cross-training. And if we're not all cross-trained to be able to go out and represent, because we've talked about it as a whole body, what our positions are going to be, then it all gets put on the mayor's position, and that's not right. It has to be equally shared. So I would have liked more teeth to the president's position. I would have liked to have seen
Recording in progress.
rotate every other year so that everybody has that opportunity and that responsibility to reflect our values and goals. So I am happy to support the 2-year. I think it moves us forward and gets us in a better position. But I really do feel we have to change the title of the mayor in order to get away from those old attitudes and habits. For me, this is a nonpartisan position above anything else. And so to call and title something a political head, just to me, really kind of throws that whole democratic attitude under the bus. Because in reality, we all serve equally. And so I really feel I will support Tim's thinking on, I like civic leader, I will tell you that. I think that that better reflects who we are. But I also respect Tim's term because I think it says it very clearly that the mayor is one of. So I'm off my.
My comments about this, having served in all 3 positions as a council president, and as mayor, I'm going to try not to take some of the comments personally because I read our charter and our council rules probably once a month. And I think in the last year and a half that I serve with the consensus of the council, that I bring things back. Like even today, we had a meeting, and it has to do with Metro and supportive housing. And the question I said is, what are my next steps? I'm going to take this to my council tonight, and then I would like to be able to give public comment. And so I feel very bluntly that our charter and our council, I can't sign. I mean, I asked a question about an endorsement to the council, and the council said no. And so we didn't do it. We have things in our council rules and our charter that protect against that. And as far as the proclamation goes, the proclamation is by the mayor, and appointments are the mayor's with consensus of the council. There are many things and layers that we have done to protect the mayor from becoming too powerful and not serving as a representative of the council. Furthermore, I mean, bluntly speaking, I spent some time doing some work on the council stipend, mayor stipend. In my perspective, my role as a counselor had 8 criteria or 8 expectations or jobs. Mine as the mayor has 22. And so what I'm afraid of is I'm going to be very blunt again. I can't require any of you to show up to community events. I can't say, hey, there's a ribbon cutting at Martin Road. You need to be there. Hey, recreation, library, and police are at the winter in the Grove. Like, people aren't showing up. So the mayor, when you have a position like you are the head, that all is on, I mean, right? Like, that is the requirement. Like, that is the person who does the ribbon cutting, who meets with Washington County, who brings it back, who goes to Metro, who asks for, like, if we don't have a clear, in our charter, a clear prescription, like, and I'm not for micromanaging, but I'm just concerned that at what point is the accountability of who's going to, whether it's me, the next mayor, the mayor after that, of like who's responsible for doing those things. So to me, I feel like I did not like civic leader. because I'm a civic leader as a teacher. The president of Rotary is a civic leader. This is in regards to the city. Who is the newspaper going to call when there's this hubbub of like potential this issue or that issue or something's going on? To me, they call the mayor. So it's not just like power. I mean, there's also the weight of 27,000 people that is on your shoulders. It's not all fun and games. So, and it's an elected position, right? So it's not like the people elected the mayor for the political head of the city, right? That's not like, that didn't just happen. It's not that someone comes and says, hey, I'm going to be mayor, and 6 people appoint that person. The voters, some people, right? Like they say, hey, I want to run for this position. They run for a position, and then the whole community votes and elects them as the mayor. You know, and I actually have changed, because initially when the Charter Review Committee called me and said like, hey, what do you think about voting or not voting? Hillsborough, the mayor doesn't vote unless it's a tie. And so early on in my career, like, you know, I'd only been mayor a few months. I was like, oh, that might be nice. That might be nice not to vote, because then I can facilitate a discussion. I can like be more. But then I listen to other people, and as an elected, people might want to know what my position is on time, place, and manner. People might want to know who they voted for. This person who's in the head of the council, what is their position? Because then they can decide, you know, we're not going to have term limits again, and we believe in the people that like, hey, I don't want to vote for this person again. I thought they did this or that, and I didn't agree with it. So, you know, it's not, I would say this, we can't look at our charter based on personal, like the people who have served in the position. So I've heard that before too, like, oh, well, this mayor used this position, but that can't be the basis of how we make our Constitution. It has to be on what's fair and what people expect. So I support how this is laid out.
Well,
Councilor Ewing.
I think if you want more participation at those events, you have to give that responsibility away, because I have never been invited to a ribbon cutting and been asked, could you attend because I can't? So that to me is management of time, it's management of those individual strengths that you have on the council. So that doesn't really work for me. As far as the title of mayor, I certainly understand it, but I also know that our country is going in a different direction. So you can say mayor, but in all of that you said, Melinda, again, it gets away from discussion from the council as a whole body. The reason that we have proclamations and that they're done by the mayor is because we've never, as a policy, discussed about whether or not that's what we want. I don't know that we've ever discussed.
Can I time out? Councilor Martinez brought an agenda item last July about changing how the proclamation was done, and it was voted, it was a 3-3 tie, and it went down. So we have, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we just literally discussed it 8 months ago.
And point of order, I did not interrupt Melinda when you were talking, so please don't correct me while I'm talking.
Okay.
I understand that the duties of the mayor is much more extensive. I certainly am a thinking person. I've been here long enough to know that the duties are different, that you have more responsibility. But I really kind of step back when you say, well, I've got 27,000 people that I'm responsible for. Well, so do the rest of us. And I can tell you that going to the doors, they believe that this is a political head, and they believe that those decisions are done on political agenda. Now, whether that's your experience or not, I can't tell you, but in my part of the area that I go to, that has always been one of the hardest things at the door, is because a mayor has made the decision to endorse somebody that perhaps the community didn't support, or the mayor has made decisions to do policy things, that's what people remember. And so I'm just saying, mayor is a wonderful title, but it does not depict anymore to me what we need to have as the lead of our whole body.
Further discussion?
So I do have a comment. So I do agree with the comments that have made so far by Councilor Rippey and Councilor Ewing. I think that I know for me, I don't always know when all the events are. If I did have more of a calendar of events, I would attend more of those. And I think if we made a effort to that, we could find other people would be able to attend those events without you feeling that you had to be at everything. So, I wouldn't see a problem with it being a full council instead of having a mayor position, in my estimation. And we have a city manager who really runs the city and could answer any questions for people that they have for any of the issues that go on in the city.
Can I ask staff a question or Ashley a question? Let's pretend we change the definition away from the league in most other cities' definition of the mayor to our own. Can that individual who's serving as the mayor still endorse people without the consent of the council?
If they're doing that endorsement in their personal capacity and using their title as mayor for identification purposes only, then yes. Same is true for all members of council.
I just wanted to make, because that's how I understood it as well, is that any of us can endorse and use our title without asking for permission. So I just want to make some things clear, or not, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page of understanding that changing the definition of the mayor, this is a nonpartisan position. We could put in asterisk, I believe the LOC template is like not a political as in one party or the other, it's apolitical. It's without a political thing, but it's the person that is going to be the point. And I mean, I'm kind of like, so do you think that we should change the charter to get rid of the position of mayor?
Well, and that's one of my thoughts at this point.
I'm just curious. So then the council president would preside over the meetings and basically become the mayor.
No, it wouldn't become the mayor.
Well, someone has, I mean, at the very basis,
A council president, yes, I
has
agree,
to,
they would
has to
facilitate the
preside
meetings.
over the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
At the very minimum, lowest level of what the mayor does is that. So, Councilor Valenzuela or Councilor Marshall, do you guys have comments?
I personally think that the biggest issue here is just the word political.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the issue. I think that's what everybody's having an issue with, because we don't all have the same political views. I know we're up here as a nonpartisan, but at the same time, we do have different views, different stances. And that's what we're supposed to. That's why we work together, because we don't have the same views. We're supposed to work through things just like we're supposed to work through this. Finding the wording for it, it's not saying the mayor is the person who's going to relay the message to the city. That's what I think. I think we are, on this level, the mayor is going to be the head of that. That's the position she was put in, that's the position she was voted into. But I do think that the cloudiness is with that one word political. So figuring out what to put as that is going to be the solution. I don't think it's taking the mayor out, taking anything out. I don't think anything else is going to change. But that name is that one word is the big hang up here.
And that's why I recommended the primary representative of the council. There was a recognition that the mayor has a responsibility to be a representative for the city and the council that is different than the rest of us, but that they represent, again, the full body of the council and not just themselves.
I'm going to let Councilor Valenzuela. Councilor Valenzuela.
Yes, I really support what Councillor Rip just said. And when you said it the first time, I should have spoken. I think that's just the best way for us to have an agreement, and I think that will solve the issues. I think we should have a mayor, and I think the mayor represents the voice of the council. I don't think anything should change about that. So I think just changing that part to the wording that Councillor Rippey just so eloquently elaborated, I think that will suffice.
Yeah, Ashley.
If that is the direction that the council is going, which would be amending the language to say that the mayor, instead of the political head, is the primary representative, is there a substantive amendment intended or just a change in terminology? Because this is something that we discussed at the Charter Review Committee level. And when they made the recommendation to change it from political head to civic leader, it was a change in terminology to recognize that the word political could be divisive and wanted to move away from that term specifically, but still with the recognition that the role of the mayor has additional duties over and above the rest of council. For instance, those duties that are assigned through the council rules and the inherent authority of the mayor, which I think Mayor Wetzel spoke about briefly. So I just want clarity in terms of if this goes to a ballot, what the purpose of the change is.
From my
Ewing.
perspective,
Oh, sorry. Councilor Ewing, and then
oh, okay.
I saw it, and then Councilor.
I really appreciate what the charter group did, and it is the term. To me, it's the term. I think within our council rules, because I think that clarifies really what that role is, more for our community members. But I think in council rules, we can stand harder about the things that we want as a whole body. I want to see a policy on when we put forward proclamations. Other cities have policies on what constitutes an acceptable proclamation for their community. We don't have that. The council, to me, and I'm speaking about myself, has been very poor on policy. We've been good about having great vision and great ideas, but when it comes down to policy, what is a proclamation? Why are we supporting it? Should it only be the mayor that's supporting it? Or should it be the whole council that believes, whether it be gun rights, whatever the subject is? I don't want to leave that decision in one person's hands. I want us all equally to have had our say in that. So to me, I think that those are things that we can needle down on closer in our council rules, that we don't need to perhaps, I just see it as a title change. I don't see it necessarily as changing the duties or those types of things, other than to rein in the position about really what their fundamental role is with the whole council.
Council President Rippey.
So yeah, I think it's a substitution for the term political head for primary representative of the council. I think it's more factual. I think it's more clear to do it that way, because the political head, being a political science major, political is the political entity of the city. I get that, but only political scientists understand that. The public does not. The public looks at the term political as a partisan term as opposed to an entity. So by changing that term to something that is clearer, that the public can understand, and it also emphasizes the fact that it is a council form of government. That's undeniable. There is no question it is a council form of government. And so this emphasizes that fact but doesn't take away from the mayor's roles and responsibilities. The primary representative carries some weight with that. And in fact, I think a mayor has more weight, more influence in when speaking on behalf of the whole council than on speaking on just behalf of themselves. So I see this change both defining or removing some ambiguity, but also strengthening both the council and the mayor's positions. So
Ashley, when the Charter Review Committee looked at this, did any other municipalities have a alternate definition for the mayor?
I believe when we were going through the process, I reached out to the city attorney in the city of Tigard, and I know that they were having a similar discussion. And by no means is this a comprehensive study, but since this issue was raised, I have been paying more attention to it for our clients' charters. And I would say that, most follow the League of Oregon Cities model charter, but certainly not all. And so some have a different term or no term or no additional duties to the mayor at all.
So let's break it apart. So is there consensus for the definition of mayor to change it to is the primary representative of the council? I see a nod from, and okay. So we'll move forward with that. And then the second portion of this was council president. And are we good with this recommendation? Yes?
I support that recommendation.
Okay. We can move on to the next one.
I think we're ready for the next slide. Okay, the next topic for discussion is city manager residency requirement recommendation. On this topic, the Charter Review Committee recommended that the council remove the last couple sentences of the city manager job description to instead read that the manager need not reside in the city, where previously it had that at the time of employment, they must they did not have to reside at the time of employment, but within 6 months had to become and remain a resident.
Councilor Ewing.
Well, I would like to say that I am so thrilled that we have changed this language. For 19 years, we have worked around that language, not wanting to really focus and address the reality that not every city manager is going to live in Forest Grove going forward. It was a hard haul because it was usually done with just an acceptance. And I am so glad that we've brought this forward. We looked it in the eye. We decided to go into the future and not make that a limitation or something that we have to get around every year. So I really want to thank the charter group, and I really appreciate that we are looking to move forward on this.
Any other discussion?
I just think they did a good job on this one. They thoroughly went through it, and it's a hard one to do, but they kind of simplified it, but then threw it back into our hands and responsibility when we hire.
Yep.
So I think it's a good recommendation.
Okay, is there consensus? Wait, just making sure, no more discussion? Okay, is there consensus? Seeing a thumbs up from Councilor Valenzuela and the rest of the group here on the dais. Thanks, Ashley.
Okay, the next two recommendations are more procedural. So the Charter Review Committee is recommending that Forest Grove amend your charter to match the League of Oregon Cities regarding substantive amendments to ordinances, resolutions, and orders. So currently, if you're doing a substantive amendment to a proposed ordinance, it must be read aloud at a council meeting. The proposed amendment gives the council an option to read the entire or the substantive amendment out loud or make that amendment available in writing to the public before the ordinance, resolution, or order is considered at a council meeting.
Discussion?
I guess that I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. I guess that my quandary here is, I don't know that it hurts to have it read aloud. So what is it that we're trying to address here? Time concerns, economic, what is it that we're trying to change here and not just reading it publicly?
Is that question directed to me?
Yes, please.
It's efficiency and options. So, a lot of times the amendment you may have an ordinance that is substantial and you post it and then you need to make some sort of amendment. You post an ordinance 7 days ahead of time. Somebody's reading through it and notices amendment needs to be made. You catch it in time. You repost the amended ordinance on the website, and therefore you can spend your council meeting not reading aloud things that have already been posted online, but discussion of the substantive issues. And again, it's an option for the city to use when you believe it's appropriate, but the charter language that you have in place now is more restrictive, and it could lead to a situation where you have to, have a pretty ineffective or inefficient council meeting.
I guess that I come back to this, that many of our community members have limited access to the things that we do. One of the things that helps to me show transparency is to state what it is that you're working on, what it is that you're ruling on. I just prefer to do that in a public setting. I won't resist this, but I do prefer that we read the ordinance, that we put it out there so that everybody in the community that has the ability can see that we are being open. And I'm not saying it's not transparent doing it the other way. I'm just saying that sitting on the other side, it is kind of a thing to me that we make sure that our community members hear it from our own voices, not just in a piece of paper. But that's my perspective.
My understanding is that we still can do that. Like, this is just giving the option if there's like a minor change in the resolution that we can have the minor change and then continue to have the discussion here and read it.
And how will we do that? How exactly will we decide when an ordinance has enough importance to be read out loud? Will we have a policy on that? Will we have a whole discussion on what it is that moves that up to being publicly acknowledged?
My understanding is that we will still do that on our council meeting. This is in the packet, right?
So that decision could be made at the council meeting, that this ordinance resolution order has been amended. We've posted it publicly before this meeting, so we don't need to read that amendment out loud. The other concern that I have is, what is a substantive amendment? So you have a charter mandate to read out loud at a council meeting any substantive amendments to a proposed ordinance, resolution, or order. I could see us going down a path where we're reading typos out loud, that were caught through the public process, or very minor changes to ordinance, resolutions, or orders because of a fear that somebody could consider that substantive. And so that's sort of the other, it gives you flexibility to say, okay, well, we redid, this very minor issue, we posted it, we don't need to draw attention to it and go through this public process or use council meeting minutes to address it.
So in essence, if I understand everything correctly, then it allows us to be more efficient, so because if we had to read substantive changes, it could involve waiting an additional meeting.
It could involve either sitting there and reading, large
Whole thing.
pieces of ordinances out loud, or delaying it, or okay, we had a substantive amendment, it doesn't make sense to read this out loud, let's do this next month. Could be
Right.
another possible.
So I think, from my perspective, I think it allows us to have that option, and I just think we need to be wise enough to know whether or not we feel that the public needs to be
Yeah.
to understand what's being changed. That's on us. So if we elect to go the read aloud, then we ought to do that.
I guess my biggest concern is, as Ashley has eloquently said, and that is substantial.
Yeah.
So I interpret substantial perhaps differently than Jesse, or perhaps differently than Mike. So when we get to that point in time where we're looking at what is going to be read or what is going to be put forward to the community, how are we determining it's substantive or not? It just opens that door to me to, and I understand what you're saying, a typo, those types of things, but it's in those types of details that we show that we're real people, that we make mistakes, that we're willing to go back and review those mistakes. As I said, I can, not disagree, but my feeling is I prefer things more in a public manner.
Any further discussion? Okay, is there consensus with this recommendation? Yes. Yes, yes. Yes.
So the next one, again, is procedural. It's amending the actual council member's term. How the city's charter currently reads is that the term begins after the election is certified, and we are recommending that the language be at the first council meeting of the year immediately after the election. And the reason is that when the election results are certified, it's not a date certain. It's hard for staff to know, and the incoming and outgoing counselors to know when they officially take office. This is what every other city I work with does. It's very clean. Everybody can plan for it.
Yeah, I would agree. Regionally, this is how it works. So I think it would be a lot better as a date certain. I mean, when you're starting a new position, you would like to know exactly when. And I think when you're leaving a position, you want to be able to plan ahead. So for me, I think that this is a great recommendation as well.
I'm fine.
In
with it.
reality, it's only pushing it back one meeting. Since the county is now taking until the first part of December to verify. This last time we did it the first meeting of December, and now since we only do one meeting in December,
Right.
we're just putting it to the first meeting in January. It puts us in line with everybody else, so I don't have an issue with it.
Ashley, so with the terms, it's like the people that were elected in November of 2022, their term would end. We would just change the term.
Yes. So the outgoing folks would end, Monday, January 2nd, and the new folks would begin Monday, January 2nd.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Okay, consensus? Yep. Okay.
Okay, the next set of recommendations are regarding filling vacancy requirements. And really, although this amendment is in the filling vacancy recommendations, it's also about the quorum requirement. And we discussed the Baker City example, that what happens when the number of seated counselors fall below the quorum requirements under your charter, which is a majority of council members, so that's 4. So if we did not amend the language that we have in the charter, the default would be state law. And just as a reminder, 2 things could happen. If there's nobody on the city council remaining, like what happened out in Baker City, the Board of County Commissioners would appoint members of the city council in order to reach a quorum. Or if you still have city councilors seated but not a quorum, you go to a special election, which delays the city's business and can be expensive. So the recommendation is that in the instances where a mayor or councilor vacancy will be filled by appointment by a majority of the remaining councilmen, will be filled by appointment by a majority of the remaining city council members, notwithstanding any quorum or voting requirements of this charter. That means that a group of 3 can meet and appoint additional members to the council in order to reach a quorum. The second 2 amendments is the appointee's term. So under your current charter, if somebody resigns in the first year of their term, then whoever's appointed into that seat would fill that full term. So an appointee could be in the city council position for 3 years. A lot of city charters address this issue by having an appointed term to the next general election. So the the Charter Review Commission's recommendation is to go to that language where an appointed term goes to the next general election. And then finally, and this is already an element that you guys have met, is that the council must adopt by ordinance a process for appointing members to vacant council positions. And again, that's just putting that requirement into the charter. This city council has already done that.
I have a question. How many municipalities have the criteria B of having an election? Is that more typical? Is that what's in the league's template?
I will check. I believe it is in the league's model charter. I don't know the exact number that have it versus don't have it, but let me check 1 second.
Discussion?
Well, I always feel that home choice and home rule is best, and I don't ever want to give that opportunity to Washington County or the state or anybody else as to our local elections. So I don't really have a problem with the way it's laid out and how it's been addressed.
How about with I think for me, the one that we were changing, the substantial change is item B. Since I've been on council and appointments lasted through the whole term. So this would change that. Are we okay with that?
Yes. I think it's in the best interest of the voters to do it this way.
Okay, so consensus for this recommendation? Okay, moving forward.
I do have the league's language if you still want to read it.
That's fine.
Again, a minor change to reasons for vacancies, and I'm sorry, there should be a strikeout that's missing. So we're striking out conviction of a public offense punishable by loss of liberty, and we're adding conviction of a misdemeanor of a felony crime. So making it or conviction of a misdemeanor or felony crime. So if you're convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony, then you can be vacated from your seat.
Brief point of order. I am going to run out and get my hearing aids for my wife.
Okay. Any discussion on this one?
I have no problem with the way that it's been redone. I prefer to wait until Councilor Rippey is back on the podium for further discussions and possibly just hold for a moment. Sorry, guys. I'm still getting used to this up here.
Okay, so is there any further discussion on this recommendation? Is there consensus to move forward with the vacancy recommendation?
So I want clarification. This is conviction of a misdemeanor. Oh, you did change that to or. Okay, felony crime. So my thought is, when would this have been? I mean, is this supposed to be a recent conviction? Some people have very old convictions, and I don't think that should necessarily restrict them from serving.
This is if they're serving and then they are vacant from their
During
seat
that time?
because of that,
Okay.
correct? Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we good with this? Consensus? Some thumbs up. Karen, are you
Yes.
good? Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Moving on.
Okay, so in my note taking here, the council agrees with the recommendations from the Charter Review Committee, with the exception in the role of the mayor, moving from political head to primary representative of the council. So now the council has to decide if they would like to refer these amendments to the ballot. And in doing so, would you like to do one or multiple ballot measures? Considering our timeline, we need to get our ballot title request deadline. So we need to have a referral resolution by August 16th. Can I get the next slide? I'm just going to go through these. So that's if we would like the November 2024 general election. If we do that election, because it's a general election, there's no additional costs for the city. If we wanted to do a special election, the cost would be borne by the city for doing the charter review. Next slide. So here's what the process would look like from here. The city council would finalize what amendments they want to send to voters. I would work with city staff to finalize the ballot title, which is the question, the caption, the summary, and the explanatory statement. Bring that back to council for review. And again, if it's multiple ballot measures, then multiple questions, captions, and summaries. The council would then approve a resolution calling for an election and referring that matter to voters. Council has done that multiple times on different issues. So those are the steps that we would take. The city recorder would then publish the ballot title in the next edition of the newspaper. That would give anybody interested an opportunity to challenge the title, the question, caption, and summary to make sure that it's neutral and meets all the other requirements of state law. Assuming that we get through that process, we would then file with the county elections officer in September, and the matter would be referred to voters.
Okay, so can we go back to the three things we need to decide, right? If we're going to take it on the ballot, if we want it in one or separate, and then what was the other? Was there a third thing, or was those the two?
Those are the two big ones for me. What amendments you want to refer to voters, and then if you want amendments to be referred to voters, how many ballot titles would you like, and which amendments would be on which ballot title? And I could provide some guidance on that once we get there.
Okay, discussion?
I guess I'll go first. I think we should have just one ballot title, that all the recommendations that have been made and adjusted be on that one ballot item, that it's the whole thing together. It's my recommendation. I think if you have multiple ballot measures, then you're confusing the voters. I think that they'd be more inclined to vote for the charter review recommendations as one.
Thank you, Council President. Anyone else? Councilor Ewing.
So when we began this conversation, we had talked about, will we take it to the ballot? Won't we take it to the ballot? Have we made enough changes, Ashley, to make it really relevant for us to take it to the ballot? Or are these things that we can internally make changes on? Because I remember at one time we talked about that we could possibly just make those changes, that it may not be necessary. So give me some guidance on that.
Well, ultimately, the answer to that question will let rest with the council. But in terms of whether or not we can solve the issues that are the Charter Review Committee is recommending for amendment through other means, one of the lenses that the Charter Review Commission looked at all these issues through is, can we achieve the same results through a different means, because the charter is so inflexible? And just thinking about, the items that you are recommending go to the ballot. I'm sorry, you are recommending amendments. So I would say that, the role of the council president, you could choose to rotate it. You could have that in your council rules if you so chose. The title of the mayor, you, again, what responsibilities the mayor has is something that you also can address through the council rules. The impact of the word political can only be changed through the charter. So that's, if it is just the word that's problematic, there's no other way to really get around that. City manager residency requirement, because it is in the charter, it's inflexible and it will impact your recruitment of your next city manager. Enacting ordinances, resolutions and orders. I'm not sure how often that comes up, but again, you have a charter mandate that all those substantive amendments have to be read out loud. Term, that's something that's dictated by the charter. And the filling of vacancies, the quorum, that's something that you have to solve at the charter level. So I would say the majority of these changes, if you want to make them, have to be through the charter.
Thank you. That really helps me. I agree with Tim. I'd like to see it all in one ballot measure. I think we're all familiar with our our choices in the ballot when it comes out. The more complex, the more people, unless they're really, really into government, tend to kind of just move on from them. So I'd like to see it all consolidated into one ballot measure. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? No other discussion? No. Okay. So it looks like there's consensus to take it to the ballot in November, no cost to the city, and then have it in one ballot title.
Got it.
I don't think we had the discussion about when, so we were talking about November. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear to everybody, because we have an option. We don't have to do November. We could do it next May. But, because anytime you take something to the voters, it's kind of, you have to understand what else is going on. So this is a general election. It's a presidential election. So there's going to be a lot of attention to it. I think that's a good thing in the sense that then they'll pay attention to what's being recommended here. So I'm in favor of November, but I just want to make sure that we had people understand that there were options.
I agree with November because I know of people who definitely vote in the general election where they wouldn't vote in other elections.
I'm fine with November.
Any other? Okay, so, yeah. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it. Are we good?
We've got a hand over here with
Oh,
Mr.
go ahead. Yes.
So I was just curious, and maybe this is a question for the city attorney and also maybe for the council. What's the process from this point on? Is there a resolution that gets drafted with actual charter language that has to be passed by the council? Is there a referral vote? Can you kind of unpack what that referral process works to essentially take all of these recommendations today from a consensus to a more formal recommendation?
So I'd say the next step is I would draft a sample ballot title, which again is the caption, question, and summary, and bring it back to the council for approval. And we'd probably discuss that in a work session, what exactly the question will be, how we're characterizing the summary. And again, there's several legal requirements, for instance, neutrality requirement. So take that in a work session, discuss it. Once it's approved, general consensus on the language, bring it back in a resolution, which will actually refer the matter to the ballot. And our deadline for that is August.
Any other questions?
I guess that having kind of gone through these things, I will ask the council to consider and think. It has nothing to do with but I would like the council to consider and think about how we are going to roll this out to our community members. Yes, we've had listening sessions. Yes, we've had that. But when it's been something big that we're putting on the ballot, generally we do a educational piece for our community members. Sometimes people went out in force. So do you guys have an idea of how you want to politically move this forward for the community? Have we thought about that? Do we need to, I know it won't impact what you're doing, Ashley, but is that a discussion that we want to have going forward?
I think like listening to what our city attorney said is that the next steps when we have a work session, like that can be part of the work session topic is what's the educational pieces? What are we? I think, yeah, I think that'd be appropriate for the timeline.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we set time aside to have that discussion. Thanks.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Ashley.
Thank you,
I'm going to
Ashley.
adjourn this work session at 6:37. We will reconvene at 7. Jesse, this is our only work session, yeah? Okay, we'll reconvene at 7 o'clock. Thank you. This is a rowdy bunch tonight. I like it. Okay, I would like to call to order this meeting of the Forest Grove City Council on Monday, May the 13th at 7 o'clock. Will our city recorder please call roll?
Councillor Gustafson,
Absent, excused.
Council President Rippey,
Here.
Councillor Martinez,
Here.
Councillor Marshall,
Here.
Councillor Valenzuela,
Here.
Councillor Ewing,
Here.
Mayor Wenzel.
Here. Forest Grove City Council meetings are located on the land of the Tualatin Kalapuas, who call themselves the Atfalati. They are now part of the Confederate Tribes of Grand Rock. Will the audience and the council please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, testing, that's much better. So we'll do this. And then I'll move this. Okay.
All right. I'm Nikki Iverson. I'm the Water Director for City of Hillsborough. I also serve as General Manager for the Joint Water Commission. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the history and Cara Heisler's support of our organization. In 1976, the City of Hillsborough and Forest Grove joined forces to form a new agency called the Joint Water Commission, or JWC. Together, they built a jointly owned water treatment plant. An inaugural board of commissioners was chosen to oversee the JWC organization, and Cara Heisler was one of the 3 commissioners appointed by Forest Grove. Now, only 48 years later, Commissioner Carl Heisler is stepping down as JWC's longest-serving commissioner. Over the last 48 years, the agency added additional partners, including the City of Beaverton and Tualatin Valley Water District, and additional infrastructure to create a regional water system. The original water treatment plant was built to treat 20 million gallons of drinking water per day, and throughout Commissioner Heisler's tenure was expanded to its current capacity of treating up to 85 million gallons per day. He is the only commissioner who provided oversight for construction of both reservoirs on Fern Hill, the first in 1981, which was expedited as crucial infrastructure after Mount St. Helens erupted. There have been many other projects along the way as well, which have taken the JWC from supplying water to about 30,000 customers in Hillsborough and Forest Grove to today supplying most of western Washington County and over 450,000 customers. We at the JWC appreciate your above and beyond years of public service, your steady hand on the JWC tiller that has guided the organization for almost 50 years, from inception to where it is today, and your dedication to an essential service that provides high-quality drinking water, fire protection, economic support, and quality of life for so many. Thank you for your service.
Getting too heavy.
Yeah, stay up here, stay up here. Yeah, the city has some words.
Yes, thank you.
The Joint Water Commission was originally formed to provide high-quality drinking water to the rapidly growing urban area west of Portland. Forest Grove, Hillsborough, Beaverton, and the Tualatin Valley Water District joined forces in the effort. Today, the JWC serves nearly 500,000 residents and businesses with one of the fundamental essentials necessary to support a high quality of life. From the humble beginnings that eventually became the JWC, Carl Heisler has represented Forest Grove. He has done so in a thoughtful and professional manner. Always prepared, was an effective advocate for the residents and businesses of Forest Grove. On behalf of the city and as mayor, I wish to thank you for your 47, maybe 48, depending on who does the math, years of service representing the city on this extremely important commission. Your efforts have helped grow Forest Grove to the community it is now. Well done. Thank you.
Matt, where are you?
Yeah, okay. Kids, stay up here. So when you serve for 48 years, you go through a few mayors. So at this point, I would like to invite our former mayors, Richard Kidd and Peter Truax, to the podium to say some words for Carl. Testing, testing. We're going to switch back. Yeah, right.
There are introductions, and then there are introductions. Thank you, Carl. Madam Mayor, members of the Forest Grove City Council, and guests, indeed a pleasure to be here tonight to see the honor bestowed upon Carl. A lifelong resident of the area, he has given far more to the community than whatever we could repay him with. It's over 40 years of serving on the Joint Water Commission's Board of Directors is only a small part of his civic contribution. Now, I'm going to be saying some things that you've heard before this evening, but bear with me. I didn't have time to scratch them out. He was a standout student athlete at Forest Grove High School, excelling in such a way that he was a member of the inaugural class of the Forest Grove High School Hall of Fame. After spending some time in limbo, or in that black hole we call Linfield College, he returned to the Grove to embark on a career of giving and of service to this community. His church, the Forest Grove Chamber of Commerce, Forest Grove Rotary, and others all benefited from his service and his intelligence, as did the city of Forest Grove through his contributions such as the JWC. As you've heard, the Joint Water Commission is one of those forward-thinking creations that Western Washington County in general and Forest Grove in particular is well known for. With the construction of Scoggin Dam and the attendant creation of Hag Lake, there needed to be a local presence in how that water would be managed for the good of all. Forest Grove, along with the cities of Hillsborough and Beaverton and the Tualatin Valley Water District, joined forces to help the Bureau of Reclamation manage that source of water that not only provided water but reduced much of the flooding that had been annual occurrences in the Tualatin Basin. Carl played a significant role in all of that and in the commission and the various changes it went through to meet the growing needs of growing communities. You only need to glance at the changes that have made to improve water storage, water purification, and water distribution to understand the contributions of people such as Carl and his perennial partner in crime, Rod Feet. So to Mr. Heisler, the only thing that Richard and I can add is thank you, thank you, thank you.
I've never had this opportunity to go after these two. And that when I saw that they were actually going to talk, I thought, oh, shucks. I'm not sure about it. But you got to understand, when this started, I was just coming off of being on the council like the rest of them here. And I know they told me that we had a plan for 50 years. And I says, God, I can't even think that far. And now I'm almost lived that whole 50 years. But I think we are proud of the fact that we have one of the best water systems, the best congregation of 3 or 4 cities and stuff, and we're doing what is right. And we're actually giving you water that's cheaper than the rest of the world around us. And it's very, very good. So I'm proud of that. Somebody else has to live the 50 years that I'm close to living right now. I'm not sure, there's only one other person I've been around long enough, and that's my wife. September 4th, we get to celebrate 60 years. And he talked about Linfield, and they had a raffle down there when we got married that we wouldn't make it 1 year. So we beat that one too. But I'm very, very proud, one, of the city of Forest Grove, two, that I was able to help a little bit. So thank you very much.
Okay. He likes to gift him. Makes him feel better, Carl. Okay, our next award this evening is the Eric G. Stewart Award. If I can have members of the HLB come up, and also American Legion Post 2, who is receiving the award, that would be amazing. So if I could have American Legion come up and HLB, please. Do you want me to read? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I have the two.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yeah, you tell me when. Evening. The Eric G. Stewart Award is hereby awarded to the American Legion Post 2 in recognition of its enduring persistence to Forest Grove's historical heritage and community involvement. The Forest Grove Historic Landmarks Board has chosen to bestow the 2024 Eric G. Stewart Award to Washington Post 2 of the American Legion. The Legion chartered in 1919, and its membership have been part of the Forest Grove community for more than a century, and have been outstanding stewards of their post building, which has become a Main Street landmark. Their constant care, beginning with the building upon the ashes of a Main Street land of the former Oddfellows Hall, to recent building system upgrades, while maintaining the architectural heritage of their building, make Washington Post 2 worthy of this award. The American Legion Hall has always been home to Post 2, but it has also served as the community as well. The Elks and several churches have enjoyed use of the building. Mid-century saw many changes, saw many dances after football games. Currently, Boy Scout Troop 2060 and Regeneration Dance students ensure that young, exuberant voices, along with the old tales of military life, will continue to echo through the chambers of this historic building. We are proud to present to the American Legion Washington Post 2 this year's Eric Stewart Award. Current Legion Post 2 Commander Lynn Teague will accept this award. We thank you.
I'm not much on speeches, but I accept this on behalf of the members of our post and the members, ladies and gentlemen, that have come before us over the past 100+ years. And we wish to pass it on to those who follow us in even better condition than you see it today. Thank you for this award.
The way this award works is that we've added your name onto our running list of previous winners, and it's displayed in the community auditorium. So you actually don't get to take an award home, but we have it here for you. Yeah. And a nice certificate.
Sherry, did you get it? Are we done? Dismissed? Are we dismissed?
Thank you. I'm going to do the proclamation, and then I'll allow a short little break for people to leave if they would like to. So the next item on our agenda is our proclamation. It is National Preservation Month, May 2024. Whereas the National Trust for Historic Preservation created Preservation Month to spotlight grassroots preservation efforts in America. And whereas Preservation Month provides an opportunity to celebrate the diverse and unique heritage of our country's cities and states, and enable more Americans to become involved in the preservation movement. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it's important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Forest Grove does hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as National Preservation Month in Forest Grove, Oregon, and calls upon the people of Forest Grove to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Thank you. Okay, so as I make my way back to the dais, if you would like to leave at this point, because you are here for Carl and the American Legion, I totally understand. Thank you, and congratulations to our award winners.
You sure you don't want to stay for the excitement for the next 4 years? Because I think it's going to be exciting. You just watch online.
Thank you. I'm a problem solver. It's the teacher in me. Okay, we're going to move on to item B on our agenda, which is public comment. Time provided for anyone wishing to speak to the City Council on an item not on the agenda or on the agenda but not scheduled for a public hearing. Comments are limited to 2 minutes unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer. The public comment period shall not exceed 30 minutes unless a majority of councilors present vote to extend the time. Zoom attendees may use the raise hand option to be called on. Our first public comment is Diane Standing. Can you please come to the microphone in the front of the room? Hello, yeah. And then I think you might just, I think that's fine, right there's. Go for it, yeah.
Can I sit down?
Yeah, however you're comfortable, yes.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor and Councilman, for letting me speak tonight. My name is Diane Standen. I belong to the American Legion Auxiliary Post 2. I am Poppy Chairman for our unit and Poppy Chairman for the state of Oregon. A little bit of background, connecting the visual image of the poppy with the sacrifice of service made by our veterans has been an important goal of the American Legion Auxiliary Poppy Program since its inception in 1921. On Memorial Day and Veterans Day, millions of red crepe poppies are handmade by veterans as part of their therapeutic rehabilitation across the country, in exchange for the donations that go directly to assist disabled and hospitalized veterans in our community. The American Legion family recognizes the importance of honoring the fallen and supporting the living who have worn our nation's uniform. That is why the American Legion family called upon Congress to designate the Friday before Memorial Day as National Poppy Day. National Poppy Day broadens a tradition that dates back to the American Legion's Auxiliary First National Convention in 1920, when the red poppy was adopted as the American Legion's family memorial flower. Today, it remains an iconic symbol of the honor the sacrifice that our veterans made for us. American Legion Auxiliary members distribute millions of poppies annually across the country in exchange for donations that go directly to assist the disabled and hospitalized veterans in our communities. That in the spring of 1919, amidst complete devastation, the poppies bloomed in abundance on the battlefields of France, where so many of our men had fallen in battle, and that a replica of this poppy has become the memorial flower of the American Legion Auxiliary. The American Legion Auxiliary adopted the poppy, pledged 100% of the profit from the poppy distribution to the welfare relief of all servicemen, servicewomen, and their families, fulfilling the true meaning of the poppy, an emblem of faith, faith which is being kept with all who died through service to the living. The American Legion Auxiliary, in order to protect the memorial poppy from inlands of commercialism, adopted a national poppy program at the St. Paul Convention in 1924, which eliminated the commercial poppy. The memorial poppies are made of red crepe paper by hand and put together by veterans in hospitals and poppy workrooms in 40 states, and that the workers receive pay for each poppy made, and these workers are veterans. The material being furnished to them by the Department of the state which the hospital is located. I guess I'm here to say that I was very disappointed when I received the email stating that you would not be signing our proclamation. We are not asking for National Poppy Day. We are asking, as the town of Forest Grove, to recognize, to be aware why we distribute poppies in front of our local grocery store, Safeway. For many years, Safeway has welcomed us there, and the people of Forest Grove are so generous. Our Legion members come with us because the people and other veterans want to talk to us, and we listen because that is important for our veterans to know that we care. We are acknowledging the importance of that day, and would like to have Poppy Day in Forest Grove, May 27th, 2024. This is the day that the American Legion does the memorial service to recognize the men and women that we have lost for freedom.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up for public comment. Is there anyone else that would like to give public comment? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to give public comment? Seeing none, we will now move on to item C, which is our consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be adopted with a single motion without separate discussion. Councilors who wish to remove an item from the consent agenda may do so prior to the motion. Any items removed will be discussed and acted upon following the approval of the remaining items. What is the wish of the council?
So moved.
Second.
The consent agenda was moved by Councilor Ewing and seconded by Councilor Marshall. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved by the Forest Grove City Council on a vote of 6-0. Item D on the agenda, additions or deletions. City Manager, do you have any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions. Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome. Any item 2 or D2? Any proposed by council? Seeing none, we will move on to item E, which is presentations. The council will hold questions until the end of each presentation. A 2-minute reminder will be given to the presenter to conclude remarks. The first presentation on the agenda is Historic Landmarks Board Annual Update, and we have the HLB Chair, Jennifer Brent, to present, along with Staff Community Development Director, Brian Pohl, and George Cushing.
I didn't time it. So thank you for this opportunity to share our achievements with you. SHPO and you asked us to have educational outreach. And so last year we had an historic windows workshop
We had Restoration Specialist Joy Sears of the Oregon Parks and Rec Department, Heritage Division of State Historic Preservation Office, otherwise known as SHPO, and she presented a well-attended community event to educate the public about the beauty and the craftsmanship of the original windows in the historic homes. The information session was conducted in a hybrid classroom format, first presenting in classroom and then with hands-on. One of our biggest conflicts is about the replacing of old windows with vinyl windows. So we hope that this new knowledge that we shared will help the owners love their houses more. We should probably do this every 5 years for all the new homeowners in the ensuing time. We also had our first demolition review. Over the years, we've been practicing for this so we could get it right. Thank you, Brian. The board reviewed the demolition request to allow the clearing of an uninhabitable, vegetatively overgrown neighborhood blight home located in the Clark District that has been vacant for years. We were all sad the house had come to this stage, but we were happy to know that our architectural standards and guidelines will help the contractor replace the eyesore with a building or home in keeping with that neighborhood. Last month, SHPO had Oregon Heritage Conference here in our very own town of Forest Grove. The conference is a time for people who share a common passion for Oregon's heritage and history to come together to share insights, understand connections, develop relationships, learn new ways, and reinforce the value of work and energized to keep moving forward. Board Secretary George Cushing held a place on a panel discussion entitled Spanish Language as a Way to Increase Community Engagement, and shared with the board what the board has done to engage the local Spanish-speaking community in the preservation of our homes. We have had Spanish translation of the historic district brochures, and when we prepared the banners for our window replacement, we also had them in Spanish so that we would have we could include anyone that wanted to be. That said, we are leveraging all that George has been learning at these events to thank our diligent and loving homeowners. We are having a half-day community engagement and education session. It's tentatively scheduled for Saturday, the 10th. We are researching and recruiting of August, speakers to present a number of topics ranging from historic grant writing 101, restoration practices for working licensed contractors, the role of oral history and historic preservation, advocacy and engagement for heritage. And at this event, I hope they get to share their love of old houses with each other, pat themselves on the back for helping make Forest Grove a special place. That's all. Did I get it done in time?
Yeah, you did great.
Okay.
Thank you. Questions for HLB? Any questions, clarifying comments? Counselor Ewing.
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. Thank you, you guys, for coming this evening. It's always been a reward to work with you through the years and to be able to see really the contributions that your team has made and for the community. I just really want to extend my appreciation and job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Ewing.
Thank you, Brian, for holding our hands.
Thank you. We're going to move on to a presentation from the SSW Consulting about our Forest Grove 2040 Visioning Plan. Hello, Sarah. Can you hear us?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to present tonight. I'm going to share with you an overview of the 2040 vision process. And looks like they're pulling up the slides now. we wanted to be able to introduce the council to this process and in our plan for moving forward. So if we can head to the next slide. Our team was really excited to be selected for working with the city of Forest Grove. We have a longstanding relationship with you all, having worked on the your goal setting retreats and talking about the community vision. I think the conversation started about 4 years ago when we were working on a community profile when we were doing some goal setting in 2020. So it's exciting to see this process come to fruition, and we're really thrilled to get started on it. That's our team. You guys have met Ashley and Sasha. And for those who aren't familiar with our work in the community, we do strategic planning. That is uniting people towards a shared vision. And then the most important part of that work is the facilitation aspect of it and the engagement, which you'll see in the community visioning work, which is about fostering the relationships that really helps to get the work done. And so there'll be lots of engagement that goes into this process, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Next slide. This is all about setting goals for your community. And I love this quote to kind of get us in the right frame of mind that goals, there's no telling what you can do when you get inspired by them. And there's no telling what you can do when you believe in them. And no telling what will happen when you act on them. And so it's just really powerful to see the communities who can form shared goals together and then really push them forward to do what's best for their communities. So looking forward to see what that is for Forest Grove as we look towards your vision and the goals to help us get there. So community visioning, you guys are no stranger to goal setting, certainly, but community visioning is a little bit different. It's about defining goals and actions, of course, and doing that in alignment with the mission and values. But it's even more important to the engagement that goes into the process, as I mentioned earlier. So the community engagement and engagement with staff will help to result in unity around that mission, vision, values, and goals. It'll ensure through engagement and those conversations across the community and the organization that we're gathering that input to develop shared goals and through that collaborative discussion, as well as a plan for how to get there. It's also really important in community visioning and working with your organization and your other community stakeholders to see what are the various plans that are guiding the organization as well as the community, and trying to discern where the alignment is between those plans. That work doesn't stop just because you're developing a community vision. The community vision really helps to bring those plans together. And then again, through that engagement, the most important piece of that is building relationships that's going to help yield those implementation results for your community. It's relationships, existing relationships, strengthening those, and then also thinking about what stakeholders maybe haven't we engaged enough in the past, or what new stakeholders are in the community, and how do we form some really solid relationships with them to bring them into the visioning and goal setting as well. In our next slide. So it's more about, it's more than just creating a plan. This is really about creating a culture, something, it's not just a one and done thing. Again, in building that relationships, it's about keeping people engaged, ensuring that the plan is relevant. As things change, we'll have a plan for regularly updating it. And then also plans for communicating consistently and often with the folks that we engage. And then most importantly, as you get in towards implementation, highlighting what's been accomplished, where we might be running into challenges, celebrating the progress, and where there are challenges, figuring out how to work through those together. So it's really about creating that culture of strategic management and a nimble plan and flexible plan that's going to evolve and be updated as you move through the implementation process. Next slide. So some of the project objectives that we've designed to get us started is we want to identify community vision and values that reflects Forest Grove, the character of your community. So thinking through the things that matter most to folks who live, work, and play and visit in Forest Grove. The visioning process is going to lay the groundwork, as I mentioned, for the public engagement. So we'll work with staff, we'll work with volunteers, your boards, your commissions, and develop goals for the engagement process, and then a strategy to engage the broader community. Once we get into the engagement, we'll start analyzing the results that come out of any focus groups, surveys, and other engagement that we do to look at current trends, and be able to think through, what are some of those potential impacts, constraints, opportunities. We'll start to see what sort of themes emerge. We'll outline that vision for the community through our engagement, and then start to develop the actions that will help to move us towards that vision. And then most importantly, at the end, outlining an implementation structure that's going to define how do we document the progress, how do we report it back to the community, and then how do we use additional input to update the vision, again, to make sure that we support a culture of strategic management and that it's a living document that's going to continue to guide the community and the organization. So those are the goals that we've outlined. As far as how we're going to get there, this is our process overview. So right now we're kind of in between that stage 1 and 2, working through our scoping and planning. We've been going through some background materials. We've geared up some recruitment materials for a steering committee that will help to work on this project. And then the next phase of the project will be to work through our engagement strategy and put that together. So we're updating that community profile from 2020, designing a stakeholder map. So just thinking through who are all the stakeholders in Forest Grove. We're working on some project branding, key messages. So just getting some key materials put together. And then we'll be working with the steering committee on the development of that communications and engagement plan. That's going to dictate how we do the engagement with the community. And then once we have our plan solidified, we will get out and start that engagement work. So you'll see us all over the place in meetings, at events, some one-on-one interviews, and we'll be using a variety of tools to engage the community. And throughout that, as I mentioned, there'll be a steering committee that we'll be checking in with to help guide that work and make sure that there aren't any gaps in our engagement, or see if we need to evolve our tools to make sure that we truly are reaching everybody. There'll also be some checkpoints with the city council. So when we get into this next phase 4, where our vision development, we'll be sharing the results of that outreach to the council, and then also presenting a draft of the mission and vision and values. Once we have our mission, vision, values put together, we'll start looking through the action planning. And that will be some Vision Lab focus groups, working with, again, some folks from the community, some subject matter experts from staff, and thinking through, once we have our mission, vision, values, and goals, what are the actions going to be to support those goal areas? Lots of public involvement in every phase of this process, but as we get those plans put together, we'll be circulating that with the community for public comment, presenting it to the council, the steering committee, and making sure that we're closing the communication engagement loop with all the stakeholders. We'll finalize that vision and action plan. And then step 7 will be to implement and celebrate it. So this is a really important part of the process that not every community works through, and we want to make sure that we set Forest Grove up for success. So it's not enough just to have the plan, but also to have an implementation structure that's going to help you bring the plan to life. So we'll be working with your staff on some training templates and materials, some progress reporting tools, and make sure that they're truly ready to launch the vision and feel supported in that process. This doesn't happen alone. It's a team effort. So we have outlined some roles and responsibilities for the groups that will be very involved in moving this project forward. So council, let's focus on your role for a moment. You guys will be receiving quarterly updates on the process. We'll be very engaged in the development of the mission, vision, and values. That community vision, the idea will be to link that to the council's annual goal setting process. And then you guys are the champions for this project. This is something that you've been talking about for quite some time. So we want you to be engaged and involved and really encourage the community, just the broader community and through your own personal networks to get involved in this process. Jesse Van der Zanden, your city manager, serving as the project sponsor. He'll be working with us to identify, needs, problems, opportunities, make sure all the work continues to be viable. Also a project champion to help keep it front and center. Stephanie Fleischer, the project manager, she's working closely with our team and overseeing all of the details and the project management and bringing those decision points back, helping facilitate the updates to the council. Our team, Ashley, Sasha, and myself will be working with all of you, planning, organizing, doing the data research, the outreach, developing the outreach strategies, as well as conducting the outreach and then putting those plans together. And then the steering committee will be an important part of this work as well. So community volunteers representing different stakeholder groups, they'll be advisory to staff. They'll help to guide that visioning process. They'll also be able to participate in the engagement opportunities and will be an important group to help review all of the deliverables to make sure that we're staying on track and that that the work is representative of what the community is actually sharing with us. Next slide. So that's an overview of the process, and it's not too early to help just jump right in and get started. So the thing, as you saw in the process, we're gearing up for some engagement. So we'd love to give the council a little bit of homework. If you would indulge us, we have an existing listserv from your livability survey that has about 150 people, and some custom links have been identified for each of you to help us build on that list. Again, engagement, to have a real
technology.
reflective, we need to engage with everybody and all of these different groups. So council can help us build that list. So we're going to share some links with you that you can share out with your networks in the community and encourage them just to get signed up. Let them know the vision work is coming and there's going to be lots of opportunities to get involved and to sign up to make sure that they are aware of those opportunities. So those links will be shared with you. We could even make it a friendly competition between the council. You all have your custom links, so we can keep you updated on where we're seeing the most traffic and make it a friendly competition if you'd like. Maybe there'll be some prizes for the counselor who helps us get the most signups. So it's all in good fun to help us build engagement and support for the vision so that we hear from everybody in the community in this process. Right, next slide. So I just wanted to provide an opportunity for any questions that the council might have as we get started on this visioning process, and ready to take those questions now.
Any questions? I'll start while, Sarah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be working with you all in this capacity. It's a long time coming. And the teacher in me was super stoked when I saw homework, and then I had the idea for a little competition, and then when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, this gets even better. My one question is, I really liked how you laid out the process. Do you happen to have a timeline that correlates with it? I mean, like, how long are we thinking this whole process, start to implementing, is going to take?
So we are working on that timeline, and we can send a more detailed version to council, but we anticipate it to be about 9 to 10 months. Again, to make sure that you don't want to shortchange your engagement process. And we know that it's really important for you to have a vision that's reflective of Forest Grove. So we anticipate at least a 9-month process. So as we finalize the details for that timeline, we can share those with the council.
Cool. Any other questions, questions? Oh, Councilor Valenzuela.
Thank you. Hello, Sarah. Good to see you. And thank you so much for the presentation. Very detailed. it's very easy to follow to see what's going on and what the plans are to make this a successful project. My question is, and I love having that we're going to have that link so we can invite people and add people to participate. Are you planning on attending the farmers market, for example, which is a great opportunity for engagement and also engagement with the Latino community?
Yes.
Is the material in Spanish, for example, the surveys, and are those available in Spanish for people to be able to participate?
Yeah, so as we develop the tools, we certainly will are very aware of the demographics in Forest Grove and wanting to reach the Spanish-speaking community. So we'll be able to provide translations of materials, as well as we've found in our engagement experience, working closely with trusted partners in the community. So we've identified some stakeholders already, of course, Centro Cultural, and then the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber are a few that are on our list already, and we'll be doing some community leader interviews, again, to just understand who other organizations work with to engage the Spanish-speaking community in Forest Grove, because there's trusted relationships there, and we want to make sure that folks are engaging with those trusted partners. So we'll be building alliances with folks for helping to conduct the engagement. And then we're also working with staff on a list of not just farmers markets, but you guys have lots of community events that happen in the summer and really in the fall as well. I think September was the big month. So we're building out that calendar to make sure that we don't miss any of those opportunities because we know that you guys get great attendance at those events, and we want to talk to those people. So as we get that communications and engagement strategy put together, again, that's something that we can share with the council. And if there's anything that you see that we're missing, we welcome that input to make sure that we're covering all of our bases.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. So we look forward to working with you and getting our quarterly updates and the whole process. So thanks again, Sarah. Have a nice night.
You're welcome. And be on the lookout for those links. We'll keep you posted on how the results come in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now moving on to item F1, F meaning public hearings, ordinances, and resolutions. So our first resolution tonight is number 2024-114, and we have our library director, Colleen Winters, approaching the area for her report.
Good evening.
Thank you. So I'm just here tonight to answer any questions you might have about any of that.
Any questions for, yes, Councillor Ewing?
Just a comment. I really appreciate that you guys went through the process of asking for a subcommittee from the council. I think you're the first that's kind of come forward with that more formal policy. And I just really want to appreciate your members for going through that process.
Well, thank you, Councillor Ewing.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah, I don't have any. It seems really clear. So, okay. There's no questions. I will now ask for a motion.
I move that we approve resolution number 2024-14.
I second.
Second.
Council President Rippey made the motion to approve resolution number 2024-114. It was seconded by Councilor Martinez. I will now ask the city manager to read it by title only.
Resolution number 2024-14, establishing a subcommittee of the Public Arts Commission with the purpose of evaluating and reviewing the Festival of the Arts.
Thank you. Are there any discussion points from council? Seeing none, All those in favor of approving resolution number 2024-14, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none. Resolution number 2024-14 has been approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a vote of 6-0. Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Winters.
you very much.
Great. Item F2, Resolution 2024-06, modifying the tourism event sponsorship program, and we have Community Development Director Brian Pohl.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Brian Pohl, Community Development Director, before you on Resolution 2024-06. We last had a work session on this on April 8th, and I think we all, or I think you all, came to a set of agreements. This was tabled until a time date certain, which was tonight. We have crafted the resolution to show, to reflect the comments that we had at the work session. And as you can see, we gave you some language here if you want to move to amend this to include the language that you decided on last time. And staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pohl. Any questions from council? Seeing none, what is the wish of the council?
So moved to accept resolution 2024-06.
We need to amend, aren't we going to amend it? Or does this include the amendment?
Because it was tabled, it has to come back to you exactly as it was before you the first time. And so you will need to make those amendments to reflect the decision or the consensus of that.
Thank you for clarifying the process.
If you look under just above current status in the staff report,
That's what I
or
was
sorry,
looking
just
for.
below
Very
current
good.
status, you'll see.
Okay, so I need a second. Okay, thank you. Resolution number 2024-06 was moved by Councilor Ewing, seconded by Councilor Marshall. Will the city manager read the resolution by title only? Is that correct or no?
Yes, I can. If the council would like to amend the resolution that was taken off the table, now would be the time to offer that amendment. So the resolution 2024-06 is now on the table. If the council would like to amend it to establish an annual cap of $12,000 and have the resolution take effect July 1st.
Would that happen in discussion though?
Pardon?
Is that during discussion that we would amend it or no? We'd amend it first?
So if I read the resolution, then my understanding is it would go to a vote after that. And it
thought
would
there
not.
was- Oh, it doesn't go to discussion and then we amend it? Okay, you do it how, I have a different order, I think. But
Sorry,
that's-
Mariah can correct me if mistaken, but if I read the resolution, then I think the next process is a vote, correct?
It would go to discussion, but you wouldn't make amendments during that discussion. You would make amendments before you moved, because the current motion is to adopt the resolution as is. So you would make a motion to amend it, and then with that amendment, you would make a motion to pass the resolution as amended.
Sorry, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, I'm still confused. So are we gonna, let's amend it. Are we not reading it by title only? Or are we
I
gonna
think
amend it
either way
first?
it works. If you want me to read it and then have discussion on it and an amendment, that can work too. So either way is fine. I think the only clarification would be that I would have to also read the amendment after the discussion. That's all.
Okay, we can amend it. Are you recommending we amend it right now?
I would like to move to amend Resolution 2024-06, Exhibit 1, to include organizations are subject to an annual cap of $12,000 in sponsorship funds, and the resolution will be in effect July 1st, 2024.
I second.
Okay, Council President Rippey has made a motion to amend to include the things he listed, and Councilor Martinez has seconded that amendment. So now discussion? Or no, we're going to vote on that amendment? Or read by title only? Now I'm completely confused by the whole
Sorry, I
process.
think there would be
Discuss
just.
the amendment, and then we vote on the amendment.
Okay, discussion on the amendment. No discussion? All those in favor of the amended resolution number 2024-06, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Resolution number 2024-06 has been approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a vote of 6-0.
That was the amendment. Now we have to vote on the whole.
The resolution. That was just the
Resolution.
amendment. Okay. Jeez Louise. Can I ask a question really quickly?
Please, yeah.
On the sequence for a resolution, my notes say it goes, you make a motion, you second the motion, then you ask the city manager to read the resolution by title only, then you discuss, and that's what amendments happen, right? And then you ask for the vote. Is that not the correct, or I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm not going off an incorrect script.
If I remember correctly, after you do the motion and the second, then you enter into discussion.
Right, but when does the city, I have
Then,
it, that-
then once the discussion is done, then you ask the city manager to read it.
so mine says that.
Yeah, yours
Opposite.
might be wrong. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
So we may have competing scripts here. According to the script that I have, it's actually both. There's discussion before and after reading it. And so I think we might be,
Can we get
Both correct
can we
in
get a
this.
resolution script that's the same
we-
from
we-
all? Because this is printed off of the,
yeah, we can reconcile the scripts. The one I have asks if there's discussion on the motion, and then I read it, but then it says that there's discussion after reading it as well. So we will reconcile the script so that this confusion is avoided in the future.
thank you. I would appreciate it. Okay, so now there's discussion on the amended resolution. Any discussion on the amended resolution? Seeing none. All those in favor of resolution number 2024-06, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
As amended, yeah.
All those opposed, same sign. The amended resolution number 2024-06 has been approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
That was completely confusing for me. Okay. Item F3, resolution number 2024-15, authorizing the city manager to endorse an intergovernmental agreement between the Forest Grove School District and the Forest Grove Police Department for a school resource officer. And we have our esteemed Police Chief Ryman to present.
Mayor, fellow councilors, staff is seeking this evening for authorization for the city manager to execute the school resource officer agreement with the Forest Grove School District. The current IGA with the school district expires at the end of this school calendar year. On April 22nd of this year, the school board did vote to renew the contract with the amended language changes. This again will be a one-year agreement with the school district based on a workload analysis that dictates what the officer should be doing and not doing in the school. At this point, are there any?
I have a question. When the school board approved this, is it, so I believe last year they did it every year they have to approve it. Is that how we're going to continue? I'm just curious because I was talking to Officer McBee, and I think for our police officers, it would be nice for them to know, I'm in this position for 3 years. This is a for sure thing. I'm going to learn all these systems. I'm going to meet these people because they have to learn not only the city's email and calendar and all those things, but also the school districts, right? I mean, it's a dual role.
It is a dual role. Reason it was our recommendation to the school district to do a one-year contract. They proposed a 3-year contract, but based on the school officer's response to calls for service, we actually need a second SRO. So when we did the work analysis during the first 117 days of the school calendar, Officer Bond responded to 400 and some odd calls for service. That excluded 131 calls that patrol also had to take at the school. That's not counting evening alarms and those kinds of things. Those are actually calls for service. So with that said, Officer Bond couldn't engage in all the extracurricular activities from the first contract. So we scrubbed much of that language to say may versus shall and changed a lot of that language around.
Yeah.
As well as the reporting system. So again, to evaluate the contract with the changes, I opted for another 1 year. But you're right, a 3-year contract would be better served for both the district and the police department.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Council President Rippey.
I don't have a question, but I was going to agree. I think a 3-year contract with some sort of clause in there that, whether it's a notice by of one semester or a notice by 1 month or something like that to terminate would, but it gives some stability to both entities to have a longer contract.
I would agree. I think the other unique piece to this is we will have a new superintendent.
That's, yeah,
And
understand.
we're not sure where she stands in regards to having an SRO program at this point either.
And hopefully we'll have a new police chief too.
That's the moment.
Got it.
So,
Counselor Ewing.
so what you're saying is that right now you want to do the 1 year because you want to go back and evaluate and get more data, but you would ultimately like it to be on a 3-year schedule?
Correct.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, what is the wish of the council?
That we approve resolution number 202415, authorizing the city manager to endorse an intergovernmental agreement between the Forest Grove School District and the Forest Grove Police Department for a school resource officer.
Second.
Thank you. Resolution number 2024-15 was moved by Counselor Martinez and seconded by Counselor Marshall. I'm going to use my script, so will the city manager please read the resolution by title only?
Resolution number 2024-15, authorizing the city manager to endorse an intergovernmental agreement between the Forest Grove School District and the Forest Grove Police Department for a school resource officer.
Thank you. Discussion by council. My statements, I'm just going to echo what Chief Ryman says. In my day job, I teach, and it's a good job. I like it a whole lot, but it would be, I don't know how we can make it work between the school district and the city, but we need 2 SROs. We need one at the high school and one at the middle school. That's how I think we fix some of these things. I mean, the call volume, it's a great program. I mean, Chief Ryman did it too. He was an SRO, and I see him at the market and how he interacts with people. I think it's from his training as a teacher, as an SRO. So I just think that short-term, long-term planning, we need to figure out that agreement. You know, when we talk about partnerships with the city, there's always work we can do to collaborate and be more efficient at using our resources. And so I would really, really like to see us figure out how we can help them get 2 SROs. Those are my comments. Any additional comments? Okay, seeing none. Since it has to do with money, we're going to do a roll call vote, please.
Council President Rippey,
Yes.
Councilor Martinez,
Yes.
Councilor Marshall,
Yes.
Councilor Valenzuela,
Yes.
Councilor Ewing,
Yes.
Mayor Wenzel.
Yes. The Forest Grove City Council approves resolution number 202415 with a 6-0 vote. Thank you, Chief. Up next, item F4, resolution number 2024-16. Dealing with GIS workflow, we have our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Paul Downey.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. You've got the staff report, you've read the staff report. What we're asking for is an exemption from the competitive procurement requirements to do a direct appointment for a vendor to provide GIS services to the city. And we talked about it at fair length at the Budget Committee meeting last week, what some of the issues are with the geographic information system, and what we're going to recommend to do to fix it is hiring a consultant to do GIS workflow and management support, moving the city's GIS system to a managed cloud system, and then beginning the process to migrate to the new utilities network version of the GIS software from the vendor that we have. We don't feel, I mean, part of the requirements is let me pop to the findings real quick, is that this direct appointment is unlikely to encourage favoritism. It's not. And we looked at the vendors that are in the area, and there's not a lot of vendors that provide the complete scope of what we have between electric utilities and the other utilities. And so there are some out of the area vendors, but if you do that, then you start getting into cost issues, because one of the things we want is somebody on site to help with direct management and to meet in person with people. We think meeting in person with the staff and developing those relationships is important with something like this, because we're actually going to be asking the consultant to help manage the staff's workflow. So, we start having to pay people to travel here, then we're going to lose some of the costs. So, for that reason, we're asking you as the local contract review board to pass the resolution allowing us to directly hire this consultant without you going through the competitive procurement process, which will probably take 2 to 3 months, since that's 2 to 3 months longer that we're just sitting here and not getting a lot of good management support. And also, some of this money is going to be spent using ARPA funds, and so it's 3 months of ARPA funds that I'll lose for processing, getting some of this process work done that we need to get done. I'll take any questions the council may have.
Questions?
I
Councilor
just
Ewing.
I just have a comment. It was exciting to see GIS come to the community. Being a geographic person with my education, I knew the importance of GIS. And I was so excited when the council finally decided to bring this on to our community. And I think it's grown by leaps and bounds in what we're capable to do. But I also know that you really have to have a specialized knowledge of GIS, and it has to be current every single year because things change. So to put it in the hands of a consultant that is their goal, to be as educated and capable in that particular field, I think this is a good move for us. So I would.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Downey? Seeing none, what is the wish of the council?
I move that we approve resolution number 2024-16.
I second.
Thank you. Resolution number 2024-16 was moved by Council President Rippey and seconded by Councilor Martinez. Will the city manager please read the resolution by title only?
Resolution number 2024-16, approving direct award of contract for GIS workflow and management support, managed cloud GIS system and utility network migration.
Thank you. Discussion by council? Okay, hearing none. Again, this is a money issue, so I'm going to ask the city recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Council President Rippey,
Yes?
Councilor Martinez,
Yes.
Councilor Marshall,
Yes.
Councilor Valenzuela,
Yes.
Councilor Ewing,
Yes.
Mayor Wenzel.
Yes. Resolution number 2024-16 is formally approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a 6-0 vote. Thank you, Mr. Downey. We are now moving on to item G, which is council communications. We will start with Council President Rippey.
Thank you. The EDC did meet on Thursday, May 9th, and among the discussion items were the upcoming or reviews of the economic opportunities analysis, which I believe is in progress. I think that's being done. The Economic Development Strategic Plan will follow that analysis. So that is also one of the goals that, or objectives that we had placed on economic development. And the final area they discussed was the building improvements program. There have been a number of applications, and we had asked ADC to review those with the matrix that Miles came up with. The Fire Services Task Force will finally be meeting again this Wednesday evening, so I'll be in attendance at that. And finally, the Chamber Retreat was moved to June 17th, which is, I will be able to attend that. So just wanted to update you on that they're going to have their annual retreat on the 17th of June. That's all I have.
Thank you, Council President. Next up, hang on, I started doing too many things. Councilor Gustafson is absent, so we're going to go to Councilor Marshall.
I have nothing to report. Both meetings are Wednesday. I will have more to report next week.
Thank you. Councilor Martinez.
Okay, so I did not make it to the Forest Grove Rural Fire Department meeting. My husband and I have been attending the Community Academy that's been being held here at the auditorium. And it's been excellent. I would recommend everybody go. to find out what our police department has to work through on a daily basis. It's been a very good, the officers have been very engaging and involved in the information that we've been learning about. So, and then I attended the Sister City Committee meeting the end of April. Is it? I don't think I have gone over that real quickly. It looks like the student delegation with probably 2 adults will be here October 28th to November 1st. We'll be starting to plan for that. We don't know at this point if the mayor will be able to attend at that time. We're hoping that that will be the case. Joyce Phillips, the staff liaison, has been working with the committee to make sure that we get that information before the next meeting.
What were those dates again?
October 28th to November 1st. Okay, that's about all I have right now.
Great, thank you. Counselor Ewing.
Yes, so CCE has been moved till tomorrow due to different calendar issues. So we're going to be meeting tomorrow in the small conference room. There's another event with historic landmarks. What other event is here tomorrow night? Does anybody know? Because they've reserved the auditorium. So I thought, anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll be meeting in the small conference room. Also, we will be meeting with the Senior Center and Community Center in another week, I believe. So I don't really have anything at this point in time to share further than that. I just would like to make a comment that I want to make sure as we go forward with the 2040 plan and we're doing that engagement piece, I want to really make sure that CCE is involved, that they're being given opportunities to learn how to engage. So I don't want them to miss that piece so that they can support us going forward. So just kind of a FYI that I really hope that we'll be able to be more active with the consultants as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Ewing. Counselor Valenzuela.
Thank you, Mayor. I did not make it to the last meeting for the Library Commission, and the Policy Advisory Board has canceled May's meeting. We didn't have any action items, but we will meet virtually in the month of June and July. And then in August, we will have our in-person meeting to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Community Development Block Grant. So that would be an event to be looking forward to. But that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to our city manager report. Mr. Van der Zanden.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a few things. We're working with Pacific University intern and Clean Water Services on a student capstone project that's highlighting the importance of a swale. That's some interpretive signage that will be installed at Stites Park. So look for that in the near future. Also, kudos to Ann Lane, our Parks and Rec Director. She applied for 3 different grants for the Loop Trail and Kyle Park and was successful in receiving all 3 of them from Metro. There were 118 projects that were submitted. 12 were selected, and Forest Grove got 3 out of the 12. So, yeah. So, great job to Ann. Couple things coming up. Barbecue with the Blue, the police department is hosting, is June 8th at Rogers Park. The city commenced an access management plan for East TV Highway. This is being funded by ODOT. This will kind of augment the TV Highway Safety Improvements Plan. It's strictly about access management. It's not necessarily about improvements like the Highway Safety Plan was, but it will also inform what some of those safety improvements may be. That started. The Water SDC rate study has commenced. That study will normally take anywhere from 3 to 4 months, and then we'll bring the results back to the City Council regarding the water SDC. The Budget Committee is meeting next Tuesday to discuss mayor and councilor compensation. City staff provided the Budget Committee with the comparison sheet and sent that out to them in advance of the meeting. So that will be 1 week from today. And then last but certainly not least, the book sale is going on this Thursday through Saturday at the library during the regular library hours. So it'll start at 9:30 on Thursday morning and we'll go through Saturday. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Thank you.
Can I question clarification to that budget meeting? Is that the entire budget meeting?
That's just the resident members of the Budget Commission. It does
Thank
not
you.
include the City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my mayor's report, I'm going to skip my HLB, Historic Landmarks Board report, because we've received the presentation that highlighted a lot of the things I was going to talk about. So on April 27th, I attended with Council President Rippey was there as well, the Habitat for Humanity Gala. On May 4th, the Chamber hosted their second wine walk, which was a good success. And then also the Indigenous Student Union at Pacific University hosted their first powwow on campus, and that was well received as well. On Thursday, May 9th, I had my first meeting with the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. So 6 people attended out of the 10 or 11 that have accepted. Some things they talked about. We are going to be at the market on June 5th to recruit for the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council to get more people involved. We received a presentation from representatives of ASB about a Move app that they're using to increase community engagement, and they were able to connect it to our goals of community engagement and DEI. So we're going to vet using that if there's a place for the MYAC to help connect students of that age group with community events. And then there's discussion of partnering with Pacific's MMC to do a voter registration drive at the high school next fall. And so those are some of the things that we were talking about. We'll get chairs and positions at the next meeting, but it's really exciting to be building that program out again. So if there's something you have an idea that you would like me to take back to them, please let me know. On Saturday at 9 a.m., I attended the county hosted the ribbon cutting at Martin Road. State reps were there, Region 2 was there, and Commissioner Willie was there. So that's a good, very successful project. And I look forward to continuing to work with them on the Fern Hill intersection in the next coming years. Today, so what I really want to spend most of my time discussing, and I want some feedback from you before I schedule a meeting with Metro President Lynn Peterson. There is a stakeholder group from Metro meeting to discuss the supportive housing bond, and they want to, it just seems they want to try to reconfigure it and take some sort of recommendation to the voters because they want money for affordable housing. And this really hasn't gone out to cities. They haven't had any sort of community engagement. I had heard rumblings about this, and that's why I helped write an editorial. It's year 3 of this bond. We're actually seeing huge growth with the county. It's working in Washington County, I would say. Some notes just out of statistics, right, is that we're able, the goals were case management, sheltering, and housing. And in 2021, there was 12 case managers. There's 144. There were 49 shelters. There's now 426, right? Housing was 775. There's now 2,510. So my initial response is like, whoa. We're only on year 3. We're doing good work. And this need we have to address homelessness isn't going away. So my understanding is that the only way to engage Metro on this is to reach out to Lynn Peterson and make a meeting and then communicate where Forest Grove's positions on this. I would like to do that, but I wanted to make sure I had counsel I'm giving the message of the council to Metro. My understanding is that the COO is going to recommend what they're going to do in July, and that the referral date or recommendation that they want it to go to the ballot in November. So it seems very rushed by Metro, and it seems like there's not a lot in the presentation I received today, and I thought this was very telling. All 3 counties are in agreement that this is not a good idea, and they're telling Metro this, but yet Metro's only invited Chair Harrington and Beaverton Mayor Beatty to the table for these meetings. So if I can get consensus from council, I would like to schedule a meeting. And to explain the importance of having these funds through the county for the city of Forest Grove. We have the collaboration, we've had success in the last year of offering services, and right now we do have enough shelter beds that are time, place, and manner that we're not even using it. So I'm just curious of how the council feels about that. Go ahead, Councilor Ewing.
So this has been a huge move forward in the past 3 years. And I'm really proud of what particularly Washington County's team has done to move this forward. But there has been concern and the limitations that were put on that by Metro, in that we're doing housing, we're doing homelessness, but really a larger discussion was, how do we keep people safely in their home? Because this doesn't address that, because the only things those dollars can currently be used for is really homelessness. It doesn't address those other big issues, buying land or infill land for affordable housing, keeping people in their homes through repair. So I understand that they're trying to address those, but I feel it's too rushed. I do not feel that there's been a real vetting. As you said, almost none of the cities have really been involved in that discussion. And I think it's critical that we're at the table with that discussion. But yes, I do tend to find that when things are rushed at that level, they're not well thought out. And then when it comes down to our level, we have to figure out the funding, the details, and all of the infrastructure that wasn't included. So I would hope we would be at the table.
Any further comments?
I'd agree. Metro has a history of rushing things, and they have a history of not having a lot of details thought out ahead of time. And as our experience was with the SHS funds, there were so many questions, and people used to love to say, well, we're building the plane while we're flying. That's not a way to do business. And so there are so many questions about wraparound services, keeping people in their homes. The wraparound services in particular are very concerning, because I've heard nothing about whether or not we have sufficient mental health resources. We have caseworkers, we have people working on outreach, we have housing specialists, but the decision was made to not to rely on private companies that do mental health, and I'm not sure that there are sufficient numbers of those companies with their assets to handle the issues that we're facing. So there's a lot of questions, and I agree, we need to be at the table, and Metro needs to slow down and listen to what our concerns are.
Okay. Are we good?
I agree.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So that's all I have. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and then we have 2 executive sessions. Okay. Meeting adjourned.